Good morning, everyone. I am going to review a couple of the problems that you did today in your mid-module assessment. And after you have reviewed this video with the correct solutions, I'm going to also send out another version of each question so you can go back and practice any problems that you struggled with. So I'm going to start with problem number 4. The volume of a rectangular prism is 840 cubic inches. So the volume is 840 cubic inches. If the area of the base is 60 square inches, find its height. Draw and label a model to show your thinking. Okay, so I need a model. Okay. So I know that the base is 80 square inches. So the base is the bottom, which is exactly the same as the top, which is made up of the length and the width. So I basically have to think of two numbers that I can multiply here to get 60 square inches. So I know that I could do 30 inches times 2 inches. 30 times 2 would give me 60. So I know the length and the width could be these two numbers. It could be any two numbers that equal 60 when you multiply. So 30 times 2 equals 60 square inches. So now I have to find the height. So I'm looking for a number that I would multiply times 60 to get 84 cubic inches. So I have to work backwards here. So normally I would multiply length times width times height to get the volume, but I don't know the height. So I need to work backwards, which means I'm going to use the opposite operation. So I'm going to be dividing 840 divided by 60, and this will give me the height. So 60 goes into 84 one time. 1 times 60 is 60. When I subtract, I get 24. That is less than 60, so I can keep going. I bring down this 0. And now I have, how many times does 60 go into 240? Well, these both have a 0 on the end, so I can really think about this as how many times does 6 go into 24? That's a basic fact. 6 times 4 is 24. So I can make this a 4, and that would be 240. And I subtract. So the height of the figure is 14. So the height is 14 inches. So that is how you would solve problem number 4. It's just working backwards. All right, let's look at number 5. The following structure is composed of 2 right rectangular prisms that each measure 12 inches by 10 inches by 5 inches, and 1 right rectangular prism that measures 10 inches by 8 inches by 36 inches. What is the total volume of the structure? So if I'm finding the total volume, that means I'm going to find the volume of each part and then add them together. So let's look at the measurements that they gave us. We have 2 right rectangular prisms that measure 12 by 10 by 5. Well, these two are both the same, so I'll assume it's those. So these are going to be 12 times 10 times 5, 12 times 10 times 5, and 1 right rectangular prism that measures 10 by 8 by 36. So this one will be 10 by 8 by 36. So what I need to do is find each volume. So the volume of this figure is 12 times 10 times 5. So I know that I can do 10 times 5 together. So that would be 12 times 50. So when I'm working through this, I'm going to think 12 times 5. And then put that 0 on the end. So this is 600 cubic inches. And this figure on the bottom is the same. So all I have to do is plug that same volume in there. So really what I did there was 600 times 2, which is 1,200. So that's the volume for the top and bottom figures. Now I have to do the volume for the center. So that's 10 times 8 times 36. So I'm going to do 36 times 8. 8 times 6 is 48. 24, 28. And then 288 times 10 is 2,880. So this is the volume of the top and the bottom. This is the volume of the center. So those need to be combined to find the total. I'm just going to add those together. 0 plus 0, 0 plus 8, 10, 4. So the total volume is 4,080. So the total volume is 4,080 cubic inches. So again, I found the volume of the two smaller figures, the volume of the center figure, and then I added those together. All right, so now let's look at the last question you did today, which is number 6. Number 6 asks us to find the volume of the rectangular fish tank and explain your thinking. So we're just solving for the volume, which is length times width times height. So I'm going to look for things I can easily combine. I know that 10 times 20, that's an easy one to combine because of the zeros. So 1 times 2 is 2, and then the 2 zeros. Then I'm multiplying 45 times 200. So I'm going to think 45 times 2, which is 90. And then the 2 zeros from 200. So the volume here is 9,000 cubic centimeters. Now part B is the next part where we're going to have to use this information. It says, if the fish tank is completely filled with water and then 900 cubic centimeters are poured out, how high will the water be? So cubic centimeters, the volume, the completely filled volume is 9,000 cubic centimeters. And then we're pouring out 900 cubic centimeters. So this is full and I'm removing some, so I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to have 9,000 minus 900. I will have 8,100 cubic centimeters remaining in the fish tank. So that is problem number 6. Finding the volume, the total volume, and then removing some of the water. So we're subtracting. So those are the problems that you worked through today. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't finish that question. It wants to know how high the water will be. So I have to think about the base of the fish tank. So the base of the fish tank is 45 times 10. So the base is 450 centimeters. Okay. Now we have to find the height. So I'm going to take this total volume, the 8,100, and divide it by the base. So this is really, really similar to what we did over here, where we had to work backwards. We know the base, but we don't know the height. So we're doing the same thing. We're just working backwards to find that missing number. Because if you think about it, the fish tank is now only this high, let's say. So we have to find what this new height is. So I have to think, how many times does 450 go into 810? Well, that's going to be 1 time because 450, if I did that twice, I'd have 900, and that's more than this. So I'm going to subtract. I have 360, which is less. And then I'm going to bring this down. Okay, so how many times does 450 go into 3,600? So I want to think about, if I ignore the zeros and just think about, say, 45 and 360, that could help me. It's going to end up being 8. So if you want to use a calculator on that one, feel free. So I'm not testing your division skills here. So 450 times 8 is 0, 0, 4. It works out perfectly. So the height is actually 18 centimeters. So the water is 18 centimeters high. So make sure that you always go back to the question it's asking, because you see that when I first did this, I almost skipped that step. So I had to go back and make sure I checked the question. I wanted to know how high the water would be, not just how much water would be left. So that's where we have to work backwards by figuring out the base using this information and then finding the new height. So I'm going to put out some new versions of these questions. If you struggled with any of these, please go back and try them again. You can work right along with this video by pausing and replaying if that helps you. Feel free to use your calculator and let me know if you have any other questions. All right, thanks guys. Have a great day.